Hi. Okay, so I read Paradise of the Blind. That was the book that I chose to read. Um, this was a really, really great book. I loved it. I've never been a huge big reader of fiction. I don't know. I'm just more in TV than books, but this was a really great book. I love this book. I guess first, before I talk about the actual book, the author. So there she is, right there. So what's really interesting about her, she was really involved in the Vietnam War. She was one of the first people to be on the front lines to chronicle the conflict in Vietnam, the Vietnam War. And all of her books have been banned in Vietnam, right? Yeah, all of her books have been banned from Vietnam, even though she still lives there, apparently, according to her bio here. And because of her political beliefs, she was excommunicated, I think that's the right word, from the Communist Party in Vietnam, and she was imprisoned without a trial for months. So she's a really awesome person, and she chronicled kind of this novel about this main character whose name is Hang. I'm probably going to butcher some of the names in this book, then I'll try not to. I'll do the best I can. And I imagine that the person that she's writing about in this book was very similar to her when she was in Vietnam. But the main character is Hang, and it starts off with her... sorry, I'm a little sick. Starts off with her riding a train in Russia, in Moscow. She's riding to go because her uncle has told her that he is really sick and she needs to go and find him. And he lives in Moscow, and she lives in another part of Russia, and she's going to Moscow to visit him. And while she's on this train, she talks about a lot of her childhood and a lot of her past and her family members. So throughout her childhood, it starts talking about her childhood when she was 9 years old is when she starts recounting. And she talks about how she never knew her father. So her dad died before she was born, and she never knew her dad, and she's ostracized for that. So what I got from this was that the Vietnamese really care about family, the nuclear family, having both mom and dad, and mom and dad, the whole normal family structure. I'm saying it wrong, but that's what I got from the book, because she was ostracized. She was made fun of for not having a dad. I think she called herself a bastard child or something. And this was in the 60s or 50s or 60s or something. And I was like, ooh, that's still pretty bad to be calling someone that even that early on. So she lives with her mom. Her and her mom live in Hanoi. I think I'm saying that correctly. And I think that's where they live. They live in one of the villages close to Hanoi, if not in Hanoi. And she basically is chronicling her always pressing her mom, asking her mom if she can know who her dad is, and her mom never talks about her dad. So you find out later as you meet some of these other characters. So she lives with just her and her mom. She doesn't have any other siblings, but you find out about her Uncle Chin, which is the uncle that she's going to see when the book starts out. I think I'm saying that right, Chin. You find out that he's not such a great dude. He was part of what they call the land reformation. So he was part of basically taking away all these privatized lands from what they called the exploiters. It was really fascinating to learn about this part of Vietnamese history. Basically, that all land that was privatized was bad, and that anyone who owned their own land was exploiting the peasants and all that stuff. So her uncle was part of taking away land from people who owned it and giving it back to other people. So basically taking away people's land, and in some cases aiding and abetting killing those landowners, and then giving land back to other people, what they call peasants, and I guess I'm assuming poorer people. But then the Vietnamese government realized that didn't really work out. So a couple of years later, they had to do the rectification of errors or something from this whole big debacle, this whole big governmental basically nightmare. And after that, Uncle Chin kind of has to run away from the village because he was he he was really big in taking away all these people's lands, and then once they did the rectification of those errors, he kind of had to go live somewhere else. So that's kind of his backstory. And then you meet eventually, Hang finds out about her dad. So her dad was one of these landowners that her mom's brother, Uncle Chin, basically was the reason for his downfall and his death. So he had to run away from the village because their land was taken from them. And you find out about Hang's dad's sister, whose name's Aunt Tam, and she's a big character in the story. She's worked hard all her life. She hates her sister-in-law's brother because of what he did to her own brother. It's kind of this whole weird family dynamic of she loves Hang, but she hates her mom and hates all this stuff. And the book really chronicles kind of Hang figuring out where she fits in with her family. She really wants to please her mom, but she also really loves Aunt Tam, and Aunt Tam really loves her and cares about her. So basically, that's kind of what the whole book is about, kind of chronicling this family dynamic and kind of the highs and lows of Hang's life. So eventually so she goes to visit her uncle. Her uncle actually wasn't sick. He was just trying to use her for his political dealings, or his shady side business or something. Maybe it wasn't political. It was something to do with imported goods or something. But basically trying to use her, and she doesn't really like her uncle. He's a terrible person, and she really hates him. But then, so then it kind of goes like this. She hears that her mom gets in an accident. So her mom, towards the end of the book, her and her mom kind of get get a little bit torn apart, I guess. She doesn't really see her mom or talk to her mom. She still sends her food because that's kind of what Vietnamese people are expected to do. So I didn't realize there was such this big connection between Russia and Vietnam during this time. I think by the end of the book it's in the 80s. And so she's working as a textile worker. She has to leave. She did go to university, but then she has to leave university because her mom gets in this accident where she has to get her leg amputated. I was like, holy crap. So then she starts working as a textile worker in Russia. And she sends basically as much food and as much money as possible back to her mom, because that's what you do if you're Vietnamese. That's kind of the custom, is what I got from that. You keep as little as you can for yourself, and you provide for your family, even though she doesn't even talk to her mom really ever. And then at the end of the book, so Aunt Tam, like I said, is really rich and really well off. She saved everything for Hang because she really cared about her brother. Then her brother died, and Hang was what was left of her brother. So she saved a bunch of money and all this furniture in the house and everything. And towards the end of the book, Hang has to come home because Aunt Tam is dying. So she's really old. She never had any children or anything like that. She's really old, and then she dies, and then she has to prepare the funeral ceremony and all this stuff. What really was cool, maybe not cool, but interesting, was the last part of the book was Aunt Tam, before she dies, she's like, please keep my house, keep it for our ancestors, keep it going. And Hang is like, I have to leave this all behind. She's like, I'm really sorry. I can honor my ancestors by putting flowers on their grave. Like, this is just horrors of my past, of me not having a father, of me having to deal with all of this family turmoil, of me and my mom beginning to hate each other, of my mom getting her leg amputated, of my uncle exploiting my mom, and all this stuff. And she's just like, I have to leave it all behind. So I really like the main character. She's a really strong woman, which I always love those types of characters. And this really taught me a lot about Vietnam and a little bit of the history. So, like, again, I had no idea about this like government land reform effort and how badly it went. And you really kind of see what communism can do to people, and how that can actually exploit people, even though they claim that they're trying to help people who are being exploited. And I learned a lot about how how important family is. You do everything for your family, and that's it. There's one scene towards the end of the book where Hang is accepting help to get back to Vietnam. She's in Russia to get back to Vietnam because her Aunt Tam is dying, but she's trying to get her papers so that she can get an exit visa so she can go. And this guy who she colloquially calls the Bohemian, and she knew him from when she was in university, and he helps her get her papers, and she was like, this is insane. This is the first time I've ever accepted help from someone who wasn't a family member. So you really realize how central to Vietnamese culture and even Vietnamese identity your family is. It's your family or nothing. And that was really, really interesting to me. But again, I've talked now for quite a long time. I love this book. It was really great. And I learned a lot about Vietnam. And I would love to read more of her books. I want to find those and see if they're translated. The translators translated this in the 90s, so I'm hoping that they translate her other books too. That's all. Thanks.